The door to her new, abandoned home opens automatically, and Belle walks in to find herself back in her old place. Erin told Belle to get some rest and report to her new school tomorrow. Belle tries to turn on the lights, but the chandelier suddenly shorts out and only the flashlight emits a faint light. He put his luggage in front of the bed and saw the hanging portrait of the Phantom Bride. He hurriedly covered it with a tablecloth and prepared to fall asleep. The figure of the ghost bride loomed in the corner. The flashlight suddenly went out. Belle freaks out and rushes down the stairs. He bumped into his mom, Irene. Erin comforts Belle. Seeing the armor that was just in the middle of the living room, she takes her son and quickly leaves. The ghost sneers in the cold wind and says that mother and son will be back. A man comes to Bryn's house. His name is Puss, and he has heard that Bryn has a camera that can capture the ghost. He wants Bryn to go to the abandoned mansion and take pictures of the ghost. For the hefty price of $2,000, Bryn agrees, and he takes out his dusty camera and walks right into the mansion. Erin reminds Bryn that the mansion is not as peaceful as it looks. Bryn thought she was joking. He gets the money and walks into the mansion, and realizes that there are no batteries in the camera. Pretends to take pictures around, and after taking a closer look tells the mother and son that there are no ghosts in the mansion at all. Bryn returns home and experiences some strange phenomena. When he opened the door to his room, a strong sea breeze blew in his face. The waves slapped him down on the bed. A trident shot up to the bed. He thought it was a nightmare. Watching the sea rush in, he unscrewed the lock and opened the door to his room. The waves turned into a giant face and slapped him to the ground. Bryn returns to Erin's mansion and realizes that the ghost follows people who step into it, constantly forcing them to return to the mansion. Puss suggests using Bryn's camera to identify each ghost in the haunted house and find a way to escape the house. Bryn and Puss decide to go to a history professor. The professor told them to find out about John. In order to investigate the truth, they hired psychic Lisa and paid her for her services. Lisa leaves the villa, and upon re-entering, she loudly rebukes why she wasn't warned that the ghost would leave with her. Pushing aside a portrait, Bryn discovers a dilapidated psychic room, lighting an oil lamp on the wall. Lisa summons John's spirit. John's spirit appears on a piece of paper and writes a message looking for Mrs. Alina. The door to the seance room suddenly closes and the camera in Bryn's hand falls to the floor. Lisa tries to summon Mrs. Alina, but is lifted up by the spirit and thrown into a nearby swamp. Several people pull Lisa out of the swamp. Joss, a history professor, speeds up in his car towards the villa, only to be thrown into the middle of the road. Erin and Bryn assist the professor in returning to the haunted house. The group decides to launch an investigation into Mrs. Alina tomorrow. They see the candelabra neatly crossing the hallway. Bryn follows and turns to Professor Joss. Bryn guesses that Mrs. Alina may be in the attic and climbs up to the attic to find the chest, successfully escaping the ghost bride's attack. Inside the chest, they find the crystal ball containing Lady Alina. The final owner of the villa invites Mrs. Alina to perform a blessing ceremony in order to meet his forgotten wife. The final owner of the villa invites Madame Alina to invoke the spirit in order to meet his forgotten wife, inadvertently releasing the sin spirit. In order to leave the villa, the sin spirit needs to collect 1,000 souls. The sin ghost needs to be exorcised with something from his past life. A bell rings, the sin ghost appears, and the ghosts in the hallway disappear instantly. During his escape, Bryn falls into the sin ghost's study. A ghost burrows into Bryn's body as the sinister ghosts give chase. The crowd shook with bells, and the golden light caught Bryn's spirit and yanked it back into his body. Bryn recounts the experience. He learned that the evil spirit was trying to take Bryn's soul. The The portraitist draws the face of the sinister ghost and confirms his true identity. The doors and windows of the villa disappeared, and a mural on the wall suggested that the two men grabbed the statue aside, successfully dodged the crocodile attack. During the various attacks, they successfully dodged and maneuvered the steering wheel to dodge back and forth, arriving at the manor to find the item he had earlier. With the captain's guidance, got the hat that the ghost used to have. Returning to the villa only to see the professor, who detached Bryn up and grabbed the hat from Puss and threw it aside to the fireplace. Bryn sees Irene and Lisa, who are tied up, worried about her son. Irene runs into the parlor and crashes into the professor. The sinister ghost calls for an army of souls to block their way. He's going to absorb Belle's soul. Following John's directions, Bryn finds Belle, escapes the basement and runs wildly outside. Bryn decides to negotiate with the specter, who threatens Bryn to give up his soul. Tens of thousands of ghosts float back and forth around the two. As Bryn prepares to give up his soul, Lisa arrives with Mrs. Alina, and the sinister ghost calls out for an army to stop the two, and Puss arrives at the graveyard on the ghost bride. Mrs. Alina begins to perform the exorcism. The professor runs over with the only remaining pieces of his hat. The crowd works together to pull the ghost into the spirit world, and the ghost tries to pull Bryn in, and the congregation hugged each other tightly after the exorcism, and all the ghosts were released. They happily play in the villa. Bryn sends the captain back to the middle of the sea, and the captain sails away in